Did somebody say family? If you told me that Kurt Busch would run in the top 10 today, I would have not been surprised at all. If you told me he had a top 5 car today, I would not be that surprised. If you told me that Kurt was a top 3 car, leading laps, winning a stage, and contending for the race win, I wouldn't say surprised, but it'd be unexpected. But if you told me this morning that Kurt Busch would lead 144 out of the 260 laps and dominate, just destroy the field and win Atlanta, yeah, I'd be a little bit surprised by that. Yeah, I would. I'm doing this because Italy won the World Cup against England, and I find it quite humorous. That's it for the Euro. That's it for that mention. I just really wanted to, put that in there somehow. Anyways, Kurt Busch dominates Atlanta, and I don't know where that came from, and gives Chip Ganassi potentially, there's still 15 more opportunities for another one, but it gives Chip Ganassi potentially his last victory in the NASCAR Cup Series. Just a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that Chip Ganassi Racing had been sold to Trackhouse Racing, the team, the charters, everything about it, making Kurt Busch was already a free agent, but making Ross Chastain a free agent. Kurt Busch, they would be looking elsewhere. So Kurt Busch, even though he was a free agent, he wouldn't be able to re-sign with Ganassi because, Ganassi was sold to Trackhouse. So with that news, everyone's like, Chip Ganassi Racing is going to get one more win, right? They're going to get at least one more win. Well, it didn't take that long. Just a couple of weeks later, Kurt Busch holds off brother Kyle Busch to win at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Obviously, as I said, there's still a lot more opportunities for Chip Ganassi Racing to win this year, but you've got to think, is this the last one with how well Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs have run this year? Could this be the last one? But with how dominant Kurt Busch was today, it might not be the last one for that team. He had a great car today. He was in the top 2 or 3 all day long. As I said, led 144 laps today, won stage 2, and of course won the race, locking himself in the playoffs. So not only does he lock himself in the playoffs, but he really messes everything else up. He messes everything else up for everyone else, because Kurt Busch coming into this race, I think he was 25 points above the cut line. Just a few weeks ago at the Coca-Cola 600, he was 93 or 83 points behind the cut line. So he was looking like he might be desperate by this point in the year, but Kurt Busch started to put together some runs. They got some top 10s, they got some stage points, and they had finally gotten to that cutoff area that they were within striking distance, and then finally they did it. They got into the playoffs. I think they were 3 points above the cutoff going into Road America, and they were able to extend that gap coming into Atlanta. And today, they are no longer worried about that playoff bubble because they have won a race this season and locked themselves into the playoffs, and they dominated it. I'm most shocked that Kurt dominated this race. Kurt Busch, if you told me as I said at the beginning, if you told me that he won a race at Atlanta, I wouldn't be too shocked because, he's a very talented driver. He's a Cup champion. He's getting the most out of his equipment, but, Chip Ganassi hasn't exactly been on top of their game this year. They haven't been that great this year. They've gotten some top 10s. They've been getting some stage points. They've been decent, but they haven't been as good as they have been at times in the past. And Kurt just obliterated the field today. 144 laps led out of 260. That's just unbelievable. But I would say that the Atlanta 400-mile race was a success in my opinion. It was a really good race overall. Great battles throughout the field. The dirty air, it was slightly a problem, but it wasn't too much of a problem. Multiple grooves. You could run the bottom, the middle. You could even run right up against the wall, whether it was 1 or 2 and 3 and 4. We saw a great battle at the end there between Kyle and Kurt Busch. Slightly different pit strategies. Kyle Busch pitting a lap earlier, getting out in front of his brother with about 50 to go, maybe a little bit less than 50 to go. Kurt Busch was leading. Kyle pits a lap early, gets out in front of Kurt after the pit cycle, but it wasn't a huge jump. Kurt was maybe less than half a second ahead of Kyle before the pits, and Kyle came out maybe less than half a second or so ahead of Kurt. But Kyle pulled away a little bit for a bit, pulled it out to about a second, maybe a second and a half lead, but Kurt was able to come back, reel in Kyle Busch, close that gap to about 0.6 of a second when the ultimate teammate showed up. Ross Chastain was trying to stay on the lead lap. Of course, Ross Chastain drives the other Chip Ganassi Racing Chevrolet. He drives the 42 car. And he basically blocked Kyle Busch, trying to keep himself on the lead lap, but also trying to get his teammate Kurt Busch closer to the leader. Ross Chastain went high in turns 3 and 4, or was it 1 and 2? I think it was 3 and 4. And Kyle Busch went up top as well, and it forced Kyle Busch to check up, forced him to get off the gas, hit the brakes a bit, and of course Kurt Busch came with a full head of steam, went to the bottom, was able to come off turn 4 side by side with his brother thanks to his teammate, and Kurt Busch was able to get the lead. A couple laps later, Kyle tried to make it interesting. He tried to run the bottom, was able to get side by side with Kurt, but Kurt had so much momentum on the top, and after that point, Kyle had burned everything up on his race car, his tires. He said the front end of his car, just everything was gone at that point, and Kurt was able to pull away and get the victory at Atlanta. A thrilling race, a really fun race, a pretty exciting finish, a great fun battle for the lead at the end there with Kurt and Kyle, the Busch brothers battling it out. It's always so fun to watch those battles, but yeah, the last race on this pavement, we've talked about it for years now. When's Atlanta going to get a repave? When are they going to tear it all up and repave the whole thing? And of course, it was announced this week that not only would they be repaving it, they would be reconfiguring the Atlanta Motor Speedway. They're going to narrow the racing surface. They're going to rise up the banking from 24 to 28 degrees. Lots of major changes coming to Atlanta Motor Speedway in the upcoming few months before next spring's race. Well, we're assuming it's next spring's race at Atlanta. And Kurt Busch, a veteran, is the last one to win on the current configurement, the current pavement. You know, I saw people on the social media today, they were like, oh no, after this race, you can't do what you're doing. You can't repave the track. You can't reconfigure. The repave needs to happen. We had a moment in the race where they literally had to fix the track today. The track surface is almost 25 years old. It literally broke today. Like, there was a hole in the track that was causing problems or something. So they had to stop the race, red flag the race, and repave it. It was perfect timing, though, because, you know, we got to watch the end of the Euros and that crazy penalty kick stuff. That was hilarious. I still can't believe that happened. Anyways, they had to refill that in. They had to fill it in with some, like, quick mix concrete stuff. And they were able to run the rest of the race. But, you know, Atlanta's so old. You look at some of these close-ups, it's just so old. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Track surfaces wear. It doesn't matter if it's a half mile, a 2 mile, a 1.5 mile. It doesn't matter if it's a 4 mile road course. The surfaces are going to wear. The track is going to break down, and you're going to need to repave it at some point. Atlanta has been at that point for a few years now. So, you know, it's time for the repave. As for the reconfigurement, I'm not sure about that yet, but as for the repave, yes, it is necessary, and today proved it. The track literally broke during the race, guys. I mean, come on. But let's get to the finishing results and talk about Kurt Busch's important victory. As I just stated, Kurt Busch was in the playoffs, but he was not locked in. He only had a 25-point gap, and that can be erased in one race. Kurt Busch has a DNF next week. If he finishes second today, or if he had a DNF this week, he could have been out of the playoffs if Chris Buescher had a good day. But the win locks him into the playoffs. He is now, I want to say, the 12th or 13th different winner we've had this year. Chip Ganassi's first victory of 2021, potentially their last of the team's era. I would like to see them win again this year. Obviously, I think we all would. We all like Kurt Busch. We all like Chip Ganassi racing, but Kurt Busch will now have a run at a championship here in 2021 for Chip Ganassi Racing. Just a great overall feel-good story for both sides. Chip Ganassi Racing, we want them to go out the best they can do, go out with some wins, go out. Maybe if they make a run at the championship, maybe they do, maybe they don't, I don't know. But, you know, we want to see them go out on top. We want to see Kurt Busch in the Cup Series in the future, and getting a win is the best, I guess, showing that he could give to other teams out there that are looking for a driver to say, hey, I'm Kurt Busch, I just want to race, I want to be in your car. So Kurt Busch really just kind of showing how good he is here today. Very happy for Kurt, very happy for Chip Ganassi Racing. Second place, Kyle Busch, second best car all day. I mean, what else can you say? You know, his brother was just better than him today, but really good car. This 18 team has really picked it up over the past few weeks. A win at Pocono 2 weeks ago, a top 3 finish at Road America last week with leading some laps. They've had good runs outside of that too. Obviously, they won at Kansas earlier this year as well. But they've really put together some good runs here in the past few weeks. Top fives, leading laps, winning stages. That is exactly what they need to do. They are getting hot at the right time, right before the playoffs start. So a good run here for the 18 team, not just today, but the past few weeks, able to lead some laps and win a stage. Third, Martin Truex Jr. had to start from the rear today, was able to rally up and finish third. Good solid day for him. Atlanta is one of the few mile-and-a-half tracks he has not won at, so a really good solid day. He was able to recover from his, pre-race penalty to end up with the top three. Fourth, Alex Bowman, definitely the best Hendrick car today. Hendrick, after dominating this race in the spring, Larson led 200 and something out of 300 laps. They dominated that race. Larson dominated that race, really, but Bowman was in the top five as well for that race. But Hendrick Motorsports, not as good as they were in the spring, so a good run for Bowman. He was the best car all day, up in the top five. A fourth place finish for him is a good day for them, but Hendrick Motorsports as a whole was not as good as they have been the past few weeks. But once again, really good run for Bowman, was able to get some good quality points to try to get him in the top 10 in points to get him some bonus playoff points. Fifth, Ryan Blaney won this race in the spring. Good, solid top 5 run for him. Good, solid points day for him. That's all I got to say. Sixth place, Tyler Reddick was in the top 5 to top 10 most of the day. A really good points day for him. He was able to extend that points gap on the cutoff line, and with Kurt Busch winning, it does not affect him because he was already above the cutoff line, and Kurt Busch was already above the cutoff line. So Reddick actually, he extended his points gap quite a bit. I don't know the exact number, but it's over 100 points now to 17th, 18th, whatever it is, place for that final playoff spot in terms of points. So Reddick, really good, solid day. They can afford a bad day now. Obviously, you don't want to have a bad day, but they're having a really good run here as of recently, winning a stage last week at Road America. So solid run here for them, and they are able to extend their points gap on the playoff bubble thing. Seventh place, Chase Elliott started on pole, had a miscue on pit road early. Elliott overshot the pit box, but was able to rally back for a 7th place finish. Didn't look like he was going to make much of today, but ends up getting a top 10. 8th, Christopher Bell, back-to-back top 10s for Bell. Really good run for him last week at Road America. We saw the runner-up finish. This week, another top 10 finish for him. Good, solid run for him. Joe Gibbs Racing, as a whole, really has looked good these past few weeks. 3 cars in the top 10 today, and Denny Hamlin had some problems, but, good run for Joe Gibbs Racing and Christopher Bell. 9th, Matt DiBenedetto, back-to-back top 10s for him. Last week, he was able to lead some laps at Road America, finished in the top 10. He was in the top 10 most of the day today, so a really good finish, but with Kurt Busch winning, that does make the gap really big, and Matt DiBenedetto might be looking at a must-win situation for the playoffs. 10th place, Brad Keselowski, solid day for him. 11th place, Kevin Harvick. This is usually his stomping grounds, but only 11th today. 12th, Austin Dillon. 13th, Denny Hamlin. Had a speeding penalty early in this race. I can't remember when, but he did have a speeding penalty when he was in the top 5. Ends up 13th. Bubba Wallace, 14th. Chase Briscoe, 15th. Solid run for him. 16th, Chris Buescher. 17th, Cole Custer. 18th, Kyle Larson was in the top 5 most of the day. Had a speeding penalty on that last pit stop and ended up 18th. 19th, Joey Logano. 20th, William Byron. 21st, Ross Chastain, the MVP of this race for Chip Ganassi Racing, in that late stage when he was able to kind of slow up Kyle Busch and get Kurt Busch the lead back. Obviously, Kurt Busch was the MVP, but Ross Chastain gets co-MVP in terms of getting Kurt back in the lead. 22nd, Corey LaJoie. 23rd, Eric Almirola. He tried to wait out the rain. There was a threat of rain right after they reached the halfway point. Everyone was pitting, trying to get fresh tires. They stayed out, tried to wait it out, but no rain. 24th, Eric Jones. 25th, Ryan Preece. 26th, Anthony Alfredo. 27th, Michael McDowell. 28th, Ryan Newman. 29th, Justin Haley. 30th, BJ McLeod. 31st, Garrett Smithley. 32nd, Bailey Curry. 33rd, Cody Ware. 34th, Josh Bilicki. 35th, Quinn Houff. 36th, Daniel Suarez. 37th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. They were in an early wreck in this race, but yes, oh my goodness, for the last race at Atlanta in this configuration, I thought it was a pretty solid race. I didn't watch the spring race. I was busy during that race, but from what I heard, it was a pretty boring race. But today's race was pretty fun. We had different guys up front other than Kurt Busch dominating, but we had Kyle Busch up front. We had Chase Elliott up front. We had some good battles throughout the field. We had Tyler Reddick up there trying to contend for a top 5. We had Denny Hamlin. Let's see. We had some good battles. Matt DiBenedetto was fighting in the top 5 for a bit. So we had some good battles throughout the field here today at Atlanta. The last race on the old surface before we repave it, reconfigure it into a 1.54 high banked oval, quad oval, tri-oval, whatever you want to call it. But today's race was really good. The package really didn't seem like it affected the racing too much because you were able to run in all these different grooves, the top, the middle, the bottom, all of that. So it really it was a fun race. And, you know, that battle at the end between Kurt and Kyle kind of made it even more interesting, the different pit strategy. Kurt trying to get the lead back from Kyle, eventually able to do it. Kyle chasing Kurt back down. It was a really fun race today. So for the final Atlanta race with this format, or not format, this pavement, we're giving it an 8.8 out of 10. I really enjoyed today's race. A 400-mile race in Atlanta was the right call. 500 miles at Atlanta was it was a long race, but 400 miles was the right call in my opinion. I really enjoyed this race today. But yes, a big weekend in sports. The Wimbledon. Congrats to Djokovic, by the way. Djokovic, I hope I pronounced that right. Congrats to Italy. They won the Euro. And, you know, I'm sure I'm missing something. Argentina won the Copa America thing. And, yeah, I'm just feel like mentioning a bunch of things. The NBA Finals are on tonight again, if you want to go check that out. But wow, what a thrilling race. What a fun race today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comments. But, yeah, I'll be back to you this week for playoff grid update. I will do that this week. I think I said I was going to do it last week, but I will do that this week. We only got a few left before the playoffs start, but I'm looking forward to it, so have a great rest of your night.